Something very big just happened in the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit. You can take a look at it over here. Breaking news, Judge Torres denies the SEC's motion to seal the Hinman documents. And Brad Garlinghouse a little bit later stated, another win for transparency. Unredacted Hinman emails to be publicly available soon. Stay tuned as the lawyers work through the mechanics to make that happen. And so the long story short about this all is, I think the XP price is poised to get a little bit of a hike going. A little while ago, Brad Garlinghouse said this: the SEC wants you to think that it cares about disclosure, transparency, and clarity. Don't believe him though. When the truth eventually comes out, the shamefulness of their behavior here will shock you. And that's a response to Stuart Alroty, the CLO of Ripple, saying, over 18 months and 6 court orders later, we finally have the Hinman docs, internal SEC emails, and drafts of his infamous 2018 speech. While they remain confidential for now at the SEC's insistence, I can say that it was well worth it to fight for them. And I've always felt good about our legal arguments, and I feel even better now. I always felt bad about the SEC's tactics, and I feel even worse about them now. I honestly can sit here for I think another 20 minutes and dive deeper into everything that's been said, but I'm in Miami, and I'm freaking tired because, well, you know, it's a pretty big time difference, all right? If you guys are in Miami, hit your boy up. Anyway, this is freaking huge, because this basically means there were a lot of documents that the SEC had been trying to hide for a long time, all right? These documents stem 5 years back or so when William Hinman was still the director of corporation finance over at the SEC. He gave a speech all the way back then with regards to how he sees crypto. And there was a big discussion about whether or not these were his own views or the party's views. And the emails we're referring to here were mostly emails between him and the SEC, where, well, they were discussing what he was going to say. They are the drafts of his speech and everything basically in terms of communications that went on surrounding his speech. And the reason it's interesting is because you can't say Ripple knew something if it turns out, or it should have known something, if it turns out the SEC themselves internally were also not too convinced of anything, or were still questioning it, did not have a set frame of mind. On a side note, the whole Hinman emails was a very big hot topic for debate. If you guys remember a hearing, I remember when we talked about that, I think we had like 18,000 people live watching. Anyway, we noticed that the judge caught the SEC red freaking handed, slapped him on the buttocks because they tried to assert that the Hinman documents were protected under one protection, basically, under one privilege. You have the attorney-client privilege, and you have, I had to dive so deep to find this other one, I completely forgot. Again, bear in mind, I'm up for a ridiculously amount of hours. A deliberative process privilege is the other one we were looking for. Point being, there was a lot of debate about these emails, and right now, boom, booyah, haha, Ripple has won him over, and the judge basically said, hey, SEC, you're trying to hide him from us, huh? I mean, the SEC has gone through tactics to stall. They've gone through tactics to not get the proper information out to all these proper parties because, again, these privileges are basically the excuses the SEC has to not give these documents over. And that's taken it a little bit loosely. They officially had to hand it over already. It was just not made public. And right now, they are going to be. And there was also another discussion about, because you got to understand, even though the judge or Ripple might have seen the docs, they still might not at that point be used in court. It just depends on all the different, well, you know, even though I did agree that you should have them because of this or that privilege, the people and the public should not be able to see them, but also they may not be used for this or that, all this legal jargon. You guys understand how it works. Right now, all that can be thrown out the motherfucking window because, well, they are not allowed to hide it any longer. And so that's a massive victory for Ripple. I want to be kind of careful with titling this video as I don't want to call it something too exciting where you guys think it's a settlement. I might just have to play around with the thumbnail in that regard. But nonetheless, Pretty big deal if you ask me. I'm pretty excited. Mostly because I just really wonder what was discussed in those emails. And I really think this, again, set forth the fact that the SEC, they've been reaching too much. And the judge is seeing right through it. She's got freaking X-ray vision through this little jello body of an SEC that we've got, because she does not fall for their little mistakes, or rather for their deception tactics any longer. And I sincerely hope, and that's all we can do, that if we look back at this in a couple months from now, that all this stuff will be over as well. Again, all those freaking XRP Ripple lawyers said it was going to be over, the 31st of March or so. Now, not sure if our calendars are set correctly, but it's like the halfway through May. That's like after March. In theory, it's also before March, but we're talking about 2023, so it's after March. And it's still not over. So when exactly would it be? Nobody seems to really know. People speculate, but you can't really know. It's finally a step forward. It's been freaking long amounts of time, so I'm happy about it. And that's about it. See ya.